Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the meeting of the North Texas Mobility Corporation's Board of Directors regular meeting this Thursday, April 20th, 2023. First item up is introductions, and I don't see anybody new in the room that we haven't introduced before. Any board members have an introduction they'd like to make for someone I don't see? Okay, great. Next item is public comment. This agenda item provides an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Directors on any item or other matters relating to NTMC. Each speaker will be giving a total of 3 minutes to address any item. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Surprise remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. Citizens that are not able to connect to the Zoom meeting must email his or her public comment to kboris-perkins@dcta.net no later than 12 noon on Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, to ensure the comment will be distributed to board meeting members prior to the meeting. Board of Directors are not permitted to take any action on any subject raised by a speaker during citizen comments. However, the board may have an item placed on a future agenda for action, refer to the item to the NTMC officers for further study or action, briefly state existing NTMC policy, or provide a brief statement of factual information in response to the inquiry. Madam Secretary, do we have any comments from the public?
No, sir.
We do not. Okay. The first item is the consent agenda. Consider approval of regular meeting minutes dated March 29th, 2023, which can be found in your packet. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll approve it.
All right, motion to approve by the vice chair. Any second? Second by Ms. Ogden. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. First item on the next item on the agenda is the information reports, our monthly financial statements. Those are also found in your packets. Ms. Evans-Jones, do you have any comments on the financial statements that you'd like to share with the board?
No, I don't have any specific comments. I'm happy to entertain any questions and help anyone with any information, but nothing specific.
Any questions from board members on the financial statements? Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda. The first item is discuss and consider approval of the general manager's evaluation policy. If you recall, we introduced this policy in the last board meeting and offered the opportunity for board members to submit their comments to the NTMC secretary, who has now compiled those comments into a red line version that's found in your packet. And then there's a final version in the packet. The action that we have to take today is to approve this policy to be part of the way that NTMC does business moving forward with our new general manager. So at this point, an open discussion on this item. If anybody has any questions or things to raise on the policy as written.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
I mean, I had no problem with the policy at all. I just was curious where you find, whoever you is, find all of the stuff that you're able to put in here that determines how it is we ought to do and so on and so forth. Does this come from previous experience? Does it come because you've been doing this for such a long time? Does it come as a result of discussions with others, which is fine? I'm just curious. This is just great. I mean, it really is really good. And I just wondered how you were able to put all of this together based upon I know you have a strong background, but I'm assuming that's where it came from. But I just like to know how you came up with this, because this is outstanding as far as I'm.
Well, the main thing is you want to pull the hard data, interpret it. There's certain benchmarks that are pretty similar throughout public transit. On-time performance affects the customer service satisfaction, the safety of. Pardon me. Yes. So it comes from experience. I mean, there's certain KPIs that are pretty universal in public transit. On-time performance, safety, customer feedback, attendance. So we're already pulling the data, but it's just pulling the data, organizing it, and making it discernible for the employees and the staff. That's the biggest thing we're doing right now. The first month I've been focused on is look at the numbers, make sure the employees have an understanding of what it is, what it means to our service delivery, trying to put together some goals so they can achieve better, and just staying consistent with it. I mean, it takes about, I would say, 3 to 6 months before you really start to get the kind of dialogue that you look for. When employees start saying, how we looking? Or how am I looking? Then you know you're really starting to connect. And I got that first one last week.
Good.
So,
I knew you'd put in a lot of time. I was just, and it looked excellent as far as I was concerned. I was just curious how anybody could come up with such a nice piece of work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be 30 years, April 26th.
Okay.
So, well,
Yeah, I hear you.
Any other comments or questions on the evaluation policy? For context and awareness, I would just say, this policy largely mirrors the policy that's in place for the CEO of BCTA, what covers my relationship with BCTA Board of Directors, and it helps us to establish the consistency and unity of effort all the way from BCTA Board all the way through the organization. So, well, if no comments or questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the general manager evaluation policy as provided in the packet.
I thought it was excellent. I would like to make a motion.
Okay, motion by the vice chair, second. Second by Ms. McGrath, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Next item is discuss and consider approval of general manager goals and objectives. And so one of the things that this policy requires is that the general manager and the board of directors align around a set of annual business goals that will be the basis for evaluating the general manager's performance. Earlier this week, or first, between myself, Mr. Bell, and Mr. Deshay, we got together and drafted a set of business goals for the general manager. And so those were emailed by the board secretary earlier this week. The copy of that document is being passed around right now. You already have a copy. So and I'll just take a moment to walk the board through this. The first item discusses compliance with key performance indicators for safety, service, and ridership across the whole bus operation. Leadership by example to promote a culture of safety and excellence. And then creating and monitoring the internal mechanisms that are needed to report accurately to the public, to the board, and all of stakeholders. And that's where, I mean, this is directly tied to the monthly general manager's report that says, here's how we're doing on OTP, all that sort of stuff. Well, what we will tell you inside of DCTA and NTMC is that in order for those reports to get generated, there's a whole bunch of internal stuff that has to happen right and timely and all that sort of thing. And so the general manager, insofar as the bus operation, is responsible to deliver that. So that's what this goal is all about. And then the idea about generating a safety culture is that while we have people responsible for compliance with safety programs, our general manager should be a walking billboard, a walking, talking billboard for safety, and making sure the employees understand that their health and safety, our customers' health and safety is the most important thing that we do. That's the spirit of this goal. Any questions on that one?
Just so I'm clear, there's an opportunity if you see an issue with safety program or compliance that you will have the opportunity to ask for if it's additional funding during the budget process. I just don't want to, you know, if there's an issue that requires resources, you have to address that in a timely manner. Because what happens if there's an issue that we've already passed the budget process?
Yeah, so question, and I'll give you the view of the world from as the DCTA CEO. We have a director of safety responsible for every mode of transportation across all services. One of the things that he is doing right now is implementing our safety management system, which identifies all hazards, what is the mitigation, and then where those mitigations require dollars, we want to insert that into the budget process this year. So We've not had that process in place before. This is the first time that DCTA will be doing that, and so we're learning some things, but that's the first cut. From there, if things come up where it was not identified in the safety management system, but is an urgent need, because hazards can be identified as like, this is a long, something's got to be addressed somewhere down the road, or it's got to be addressed right now. If it's one of those right now things and it's not in the budget, then that's what we turn to our CFO and treasurer for NTMC, who says, okay, well, here's places where we can move funds around to meet that need. This is the opportunity where, or this is the forum where the general manager says, hey, here's the state of our safety program, here's the hazard that I have a resource for, and then the board can provide direction on this is something that makes sense.
And how much of what you put together here has the rest of the staff? It's on. Oh, okay. How much interface is there with everybody else to put this together? Do you have, I mean, the employees and so on and so forth? I am sure the answer is yes, we talk to them and they have some understanding of what we're going through, but I just thought maybe I'd just ask the question so you can address how much input they have and how much that means to what it is you're trying to put together.
Well, besides our director of safety, we can say as well, we also have a brand new safety. And we started with it, but he's not new to the agency, he's new to the position. So the three of us collaborate, I would say 2 to 3 times a week on issues that were identified, and we're also collaborating on a couple of initiatives that are going to be ongoing. Safety committee and also a route monitoring task force.
Mr. Bill, anything you want to add to that?
No, that's, that's perfect.
Well, I mean, and that's what I was hoping you'd say, okay? Everybody is working together to make it right, including the employees and the people that work for you as well as you, and so that things can be addressed and taken care of without necessarily causing a big ruckus. You already have things in place to make sure that can happen. That's the reason I asked the question.
And of course, we're also talking to our employees on a regular basis. I usually lunch at least 2 to 3 times a week in the break room area, informal chats, town halls, getting their feedback. The first 30 to 60 days, I just want to get to know the employees more. So once we go forward with these initiatives, the credibility is going to be a lot stronger. The bond will be a lot stronger. So we're talking to all employees as well.
And that really points to item number 2 in the same spirit. This is, whereas the first goal is pretty broad across all KPIs, including safety and talking about safety culture. The second item says, develop and implement safety programs and measures to eliminate accidents, incidents, injuries, et cetera. Conduct regular audits, joint safety meetings with the labor union, and support the PTASK with hazard identification strategies for mitigation. Be a champion and lead efforts for the continuous improvement in safety. So this is the first one is overall governance of the organization, of which safety is the most important thing we do. This one is specific to the safety program, and that's the place where, as needs are identified that are not resourced, this board would have the opportunity to. The third item, after the theme of safety, is really centered on our employees. Lead NTMC's employee engagement efforts, including but not limited to the operators labor union. Collaborate broadly with council, legal counsel, and DCTA to lead the collective bargaining efforts to deliver positive outcomes for all parties. Ensure morale, incentive, and discipline programs are maintained to drive accountability, accommodations, and performance. So the collective bargaining process will begin really any month, any week now. We've already had a meeting with council about it with our general manager, and so the agreement needs to be renewed by April 1st of next year, and so we're going to be well into that. We're going to be well into that process pretty shortly. But that's only one part of employee engagement. The rest of it is, how do we keep all of our employees, union and non-union, engaged positively in building the culture of the organization and enhancing morale and all that sort of stuff. And frankly, we've already started to hear really good stories about things that our general manager has done to get employees engaged and all that sort of thing. And part of this, frankly, will be him telling me, DCTA CEO, show up here, 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 and meet these people and do, these are things I need from you in order to build cohesion between the DCTA and the NTMC. So this is a people-focused goal.
Let me ask, and I'm sorry to spend so much time asking questions, but is there any reason not to, or to have any of us with you sometime when we go to one of these? Is it out of our, out of what it is we are supposed to do to ever go and meet these people and so on and so forth? Because I would love to be able to meet some of the people that do things and just say, hey, hello. And so on. If that is not unreasonable, it would be nice to be able to do that if you all feel that that would be helpful.
It is not unreasonable to consider that, and we're working in layers or in concentric circles. The first step is getting our new general manager in the door, oriented, and getting the team aligned.
No, I
And then
understand that.
we're working between NTMC and DCTA to get alignment and cohesion. And then I think the next ring out is here's getting board members to be at the right place at the right time to engage. And so I think that there is a time and a place for that sort of thing to happen.
Good. I was hoping.
I don't have a date certain, but there's an opportunity for that.
Yeah, because I, one of the things that's nice to be able to do is to have a feeling for who all these people are that work for us. We know they're probably great people, but it'd be nice to show them that we understand what it is they're doing. That's the reason for the question.
Okay. Any other questions on that goal? Okay. The fourth goal says, evaluate opportunities, make recommendations, and gain alignment with the COO and NTMC board of directors to drive improvements and efficiencies in the bus operation, including but not limited to alternatives to the current NTMC organization and application of emerging technologies and best practices. Make feedback and recommendations to the board and the COO on ways to enhance the service's value to the public through customer engagement, enhancement of amenities, etc. So one of the conversations, for example, that's happening in Denton right now is around bus stop amenities, shelters, benches, all that sort of thing. DCTA is responsible for funding those sorts of things, and NTMC actually doesn't touch it until the service hits the street and somebody's sitting on the bench and then gets on the bus. However, we would be remiss if we didn't include our general manager in the conversation about where these amenities should go and how we should think about it. And so that's just one example of what this goal is, the sort of cohesion this goal is intended to address. Any questions on that one?
Just like to add to, tie into this, one of the changes that we've made is now I, along with the operations man, we get the customer feedback directly.
Okay, good.
Or we went to customer service and finally it was funneled through us. We had that change, so now we get the customer feedback immediately.
Okay.
So we can respond, and that was one of the questions we had was ask for additional bus shelter and stop, and we're gonna be able to provide that.
Very good. Yeah, and so then this board may say, okay, well, as part of your general manager's report, now we have these goals in mind. What do you want to hear from the general manager in his regular monthly reporting? So that customer feedback might be one of those things. Okay, the fifth item is develop and manage the budget, annual operating and capital budgets for bus operations and access services, right size resources to meet operational needs, provide a clear real-time picture to the COO and the board of directors of operators available, operators required, and overtime expenditures, and provide recommendations and lead optimization efforts. So we can talk about this later on in the report, but one of the things I was most encouraged by over the course of the last couple of weeks is an email that Mr. Deshay sent out that said, hey, we've got 4 new driver candidates in the pipeline as a result of some job fairs. We need to begin to think about as a board, what is the right number of drivers to meet the service requirement that we have, recognizing that if you have too many drivers, we're paying too much in benefits and all that sort of thing. If you have too few drivers, you're paying too much in overtime. So what's the right balance? This This is intended to say we are, and this is something I've been asking for since I've been in the seat. We're red, yellow, green on driver status, and here's how we're operating on driver budget. Because that all fits into our overall manpower picture for DCTA as an organization. Really central to what we do. Also because we care about our operators and we want them to feel like they have coverage and have flexibility to the extent they need it. But while also meeting the needs of our customers. Question or comment?
I do. Does this also include opportunities for training or any additional items that the operators may need? Because yes, it also, you know, it's important to have the right number, but also making sure that the operators that we have are properly trained and have, you know, all the resources that they need to be successful.
Yes, right now, the newly appointed safety manager, he'll be doing ongoing refreshers monthly with all the operators. And also we're looking at a new vendor. So there was some request maybe to consider another uniform vendor, a more comfortable uniform. So we're looking at that right now, which would be an enhancement. We're looking at a incentive program, cyber reward program, where operators, if they achieve their individual performance against our key performance indicators, we would either have some type of monthly or quarterly program as well that would really incent them and also recognize excellent performance. So we're looking at those three things right now.
Question, any other? Okay, and then the sixth goal says evaluate opportunities, make recommendations to gain alignment with the COO and the NTMC Board of Directors to drive improvement in the access, ADA, and customer service functions. Cast vision, collaborate with DCTA, and lead implementation of improvements across the spectrum of engagement from enrollment to daily operations. So those in our community who need access services due to disability or age or both deserve the best treatment and the best service that we can possibly provide them. So this goal is really oriented around our general manager getting into all the details and crevices of that function and providing opportunities and recommendations for improvements. Recognizing that DCTA is also focused on the same thing. We had a board discussion at the DCTA board back in February about the potential to merge into a singular customer service function for all of DCTA. That process cannot be done in a vacuum. It has to be done with the oversight of our general manager. And even once implemented, our general manager is going to be involved in the free flow of communication around that function for regular customers and access customers throughout. So this goal is focused on allowing him to engage well in that process.
The only question, not question, I get all this. When I would read it through the first time, the customer service and engagement to me isn't as prevalent as I would have thought it might be, like a separate bullet point. When I read that one, the first time it looked like just ADA access and dealing with that customer service group. And then kind of at the bottom, we talk a little bit about engagement, but it's not ever overall engagement. So I didn't know if that could be a little more clear in that, or even to me, a separate bullet on just overall customer. If you want access and ADA to stand alone as well, and that involvement in that whole process. But customer engagement and customer service and that whole focus to me is kind of in all of these a little bit, I guess, and maybe that's where you were coming from.
Yeah. I think it's important to have that focus. I'm looking at goal number 4, and it starts with opportunities for improvements and efficiencies in the bus operation in MC organization. And then that second sentence says, provide feedback and recommendations to the board and COO on ways to enhance the services value to the public through customer engagement, amenities, all that sort of thing. It's almost those, in light of your comment, that could almost be split into 2.
Yeah, I thought even if you put access and ADA up in that one where it says bus operation and then put the very last 6 number 6 to just talk about customer service and engagement and all of that, but I don't want to be, oh, sorry. I don't want to be too nitpicky. I understand it's probably throughout here. It's
Yeah.
just when I saw it originally,
Yeah.
that didn't stand out to me as one of the top. And I really want that to be one of your top focuses every year.
So I would say we said we were gonna target 5 to 7 goals. I think for simplicity's sake and clarity's sake, I would be in favor of taking that item, provide feedback and recommendations on ways to enhance the services value to the public and customer engagement, et cetera. Breaking that out as a separate one. And then breaking that out as a separate one being the customer service focus.
I think that would be,
Are
it
you
would be
okay with
easier to kind of review every.
Yes, I'm definitely okay with that. One of the KPIs I've always used in previous stops is customer feedback per 100,000 riders, complaints and commendations. So I think that's something we could easily incorporate by access, by fixed bus route, however you'd like to see it.
Well, I'm fine with that. If we could take in goal number 4, in that last sentence, and just break that out as a separate goal as written, I think it meets the intent of what you're after, trying to get a spotlight on customer service, customer engagement. It's also, it makes it more explicit. Mr. Bell, are you okay with that?
If y'all are all okay, then I'm fine with going ahead and approving this with that change. If we don't want to slow up the process, we don't need to see it done before we can approve it.
Great. That works for me. Any other discussion on this item? So, so if someone would like to make a motion to approve with the change that the second sentence of item 4 becomes a standalone goal, that's the way that we would.
You want to do it or you want me to do it?
I'm gonna say so moved. I'll second.
And I will vote for it.
All right, yeah, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So thank you all very much and thank you, sir, and thank you, Mr. Bell, for your engagement in that process. The most important thing here to me as the CEO of DCTA is that we have a means for dialogue around expectations, because if this board has expectations that the general manager isn't aware of, then that's not fair to him. And if he has expectations or needs from us that we don't know about and listen to, then it's not, then that's not fair to him either. And so,
And conversely, if he thinks something's super important, we could care less. I don't know that you want to spend all your time on something that's not at
exactly,
the level that
exactly.
we're gonna rate you on.
The main thing I look at, when I look at the goal, is we just want to achieve well-rounded agency position for people. So these goals do that, I think, if we can achieve 5 chiefs, all the bullets. We'll have a really clean agency, delivering great customer service, well positioned for the future. So I'm on board with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. So with that, we'll move on to item number 3, the presentation of the general manager's monthly report.
Good morning. Good morning again, everyone. My first general manager's report, so let's go on to number 1. Passenger count. The passenger count has remained pretty steady, mid 40,000 for the last 3 weeks. The week of March 12th right here, that was the spring break at UNT, so that explains the low number. In our passenger per hour, I was very encouraged right here. If you see these 2 weeks here, back to back, 10.78, 10.87. That's the highest we've seen passenger per hour. I'm not sure what the previous months were, but that's a very healthy sign. The UNT passenger per hour is steady, mid 40s. School will be out May 12th, I believe, so we'll probably see that drop in the next report. But the fixed bus route, I'm really going to be paying close attention to this number right here.
The on-time performance. I was a little bit discouraged the week of a little concerned, the week of the spring break. I saw our on-time performance drop, actually, and it should have gone up with less traffic. So that's something I'll be paying close attention to when we have future recesses, any type of breaks like that, to make sure that the workforce is fully engaged, and hey, we still have to run great service, even during the recess or during the holiday period. One thing I found also is the on-time performance in the AM is actually above 90% from our early research. So now my focus is on two things, will be on early departures, particularly in the PM timeframe. And also after 7 PM, late arrivals. It shouldn't be happening because traffic should have died down after the peak period. But the last, I would say, couple of weeks, I've been noticing the OTP has been 90 to 92% in the AM, and then we see a decline in the PM. So I've got to identify the operators, identify the routes, and see if it's an issue with the timing or is it a performance issue.
Now, is that overall, or is that separated between entities where basically you're operating? In other words, one of the issues I know I have is that the traffic gets really terrible in Highland Village. And that may be what's pulling you down is because of one city like ours that is basically not easy to transport people.
Right.
So I wondered if you'd gotten any detail about, is there a particular city that needs to think about what it is we can do differently? Or is it just everybody's about the same?
Well, on the fixed bus route, it's not late typically, it's typically early. So an early departure means you leave a time point more than 60 seconds early. A late arrival means you arrive at a time point more than 5 minutes late. Our late arrival percentage actually is pretty good, consistent throughout the day, but for some reason, our early departures is higher in the PM, and I got to identify, is it they're trying to leave early to make up time anticipating traffic? Is it just the timing on the route is off? But it's very noticeable. The AM is pretty flawless, but PM we're seeing a drop off. On the access, it's pretty consistent throughout the day. 93.75 OTP for the month, which is pretty good. But of the 10 of the 12 operators were over 96% on time performance. So I think we just got to work with those two to see if it's a timing issue or a performance issue.
And we only have the fixed route operating. So it's the operator to be subject to whatever's happening.
Just to piggyback on that, I know we have a lot of road construction happening right now, especially around the downtown area in Denton. So are you seeing that impact your overall performance?
What we need to determine with the detours, so we have active detours on all the routes where we have construction. So I need to drill down a little bit more to see, is the detour causing the performance issue, or is it just the operator issue? But we do a pretty good job. Our safety people do a really good job of notifying us on the construction issues, any type of delay. It gets out, the dispatchers get it out to the operators on the radio. So that shouldn't be an issue. But I should have more precise information for you on the next meeting.
If I could just provide some overall context here about what's happening in our bus operation. And this will be in our informational release that we published. But our Connect service is up 36% year over year in terms of ridership. Last year through March, 6,300 passengers. This year through March, or I'm sorry, last year through March, 41,000 passengers. This year through March, 5,700 passengers. Directly attributable, I believe, to the increase in frequency the award made. That's on the Connect service. On the bus service overall, it's about 30% up, and so that's we're seeing the UNT students come back and their enrollment grow. What I like about this graph is that passengers per hour really tells the story that when BCA board made the policy decision that a productive bus route is 5 to 6 passengers per hour, we're exceeding that. And so And it's only gonna work if NTMC delivers really good on time performance. So that's whenever Mr. Bell and I talk, it's always around how to get OT line. Finding the right levers, finding the right levers that need to be pulled inside the organization so that things start making. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. And again, let's talk about the demand response, our passenger count. Obviously, Denton's number 1, Louisville 2, Frisco 3, and then Highland Village is number 4. The counts remain pretty consistent for our Denton service. Our Louisville service, actually, you're seeing an uptick over the last few weeks. And it's been kind of flat on the Frisco and Highland Village. But we're seeing some really good results, I think, in Louisville and Denton on the passenger counts on demand response. Our passenger per hour, just a tick under the 2% goal, the 2-point goal. I think that's something I really want to look at. We have a really nice report now that shows for each access operator, their on-time performance, how many passengers they're picking up, how many miles they're driving. So I really want to drill down with each operator on those routes to see if we're getting the most efficiency out of it, any wasted time, and if there's more opportunities. The good thing about the new hires we're getting 2 non-CDL and 2 CDL starting on Monday. We actually got a new one, she got certified non-CDL yesterday. She'll be on revenue service starting tomorrow. So hopefully, I think if we have more operators on the non-CDL side, we'll be able to do a better job on the demand response. And again, I was super impressed with the on-time performance. Overall in March, 93.75, that's pretty good. But if you just take our top 10 operators, 98%. That's outstanding service. So we got 2 runs that I really need to drill down to see why they're not doing that well. They're in the 70s. So, so it's a real contrast. So once I have a conversation with them, look over the route, I'll have an update on those 2 routes in our next meeting.
Can I ask you a question about?
Yes, sir.
Is that specific to either one of our cities, or is it, in other words, I can understand why it might be us, okay? And if it is, that's what I need to take to help make things better, okay? Is it us, or is it just everybody's having the same problem and so on and so forth? Because I'd be very happy to address it with the people I need to address it with.
It looks like it's definitely not Highland Village. It's just 2 particular operators in particular. I just need to drill down to see.
Okay, that's all I need to know. I just want to make sure there wasn't something I could help you with.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Then our fleet status, both on our large bus and our small bus, we do have enough vehicles available. Versus operated, I think we're doing a really good job right now of working with DCTA staff as well. Just have an assets management position that was filled, doing a good job of ordering the parts. The garage, in turn, now is turning the wrenches, getting those buses back out on the road. So I think this synergy we've just created should be really productive in the coming months. And we also do have 1 mechanic position available. We thought we had it filled. Hopefully we'll have an update next month and get that filled to give us better results. Our roll calls, the goal is 1 per 7,000 miles traveled. Meeting the goal, but I think I need to do a better job of engaging our employees to really determine when they should have a roll call, when they need to go out, because if we have a major incident, the bus is down, perfectly understandable. But on the other roll calls, it means the bus is still staying in service. So I think we're going to see if we can maybe do something with our dispatchers and our road supervisors to intervene to avoid those type of roll calls, because that's delaying service as well. So I really pay close attention in the coming months to other roll calls in particular.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes, sir.
On the fleet status, on the fleet status, the way that I look at this graph is how much space is there between the light green line, top of the light blue bar, the top of the dark blue bar, and the top of the green line. What you see there is there's not a lot of space, which means we're running every bus that we have available. So the question is, if you had all the parts and everything that you needed to get the buses on the street, how much gap do we have between what's needed to run the service versus the vehicles that are available? And what's the timeline to get some more daylight between those two?
Well, we have 46 vehicles. So we just created a fleet status report where we fine tuned it. That is updated every day by the garage manager. So anything over 10 buses out of service is gonna put us right there at the edge. Right now, we're about 8. So, and over the weekend, we should have a couple more buses put back in service. The parts have arrived, it just needs, we're waiting on the install.
Okay.
That's kind of the magic number I look at is we want to keep it single digits.
Yeah.
And hopefully by start of school year in August, in the under 5. If this thing really coordinates well, where everybody's working together, what are the parts you need to get there, install, get it back on the road? Under 5 would be, I think, a realistic goal.
So we should start seeing the vehicles are there, and we should start seeing some gap between those metrics. Okay?
Yes.
One of the other things, just for this board to be aware of, that we'll be talking about the budget process and upcoming BCA board meetings around our bus fleet plan. We have a real need to update our fleet plan and identify what's going to be required for service as we see customers respond to increased frequency with ridership and see those metrics exceeded. That tells us that there's opportunity for investment in vehicles, and so that also factors in. There's a lot of stuff behind that one. So thank you for the
Yes, sir.
clarification.
And then let's talk about our March recruitment. So as you can see, CDL operator, a non-CDL asset management coordinator, mobility service attendant, dispatcher, mechanic, and payroll and benefits coordinator. So a lot of sourcing, but we filled 2 positions. The 2 positions that we did fill were the non-CDL operator. Again, you're going to see a lot better results in April, because we've already got 4 starting, actually 5, because the one is starting tomorrow. And we have 1 in class right now, should start probably, I would say, mid-May. The new class starting next week. Plus it's a month process, 4 to 6 weeks. At the end of the calendar year for Denton Public Schools, we have about 3 candidates who've expressed interest in coming aboard part-time. So we're going to keep in contact with those candidates as well. Hopefully we can have them for the summer. Hopefully they'll love us, want to stay with us instead. So we're just continuing to plug away. Cameron Stringer, who's our HR person, we're working in conjunction. We've gone to 2 fairs in the last couple of weeks. This is a process that, sometimes you can get a little discouraged, but we're just got to keep doing it. And then you got to start highlighting the things that I think make a difference. For our single employees, when we talk about the benefits, this seems to ring a bell. I think, and the work environment, we're really trying to sell a positive work culture where everybody's a healthy collaboration. So I think that's made the difference between the 4 people we just hired.
So I was really encouraged, and I mentioned this before the meeting, but to say thank you for the news that came across my inbox earlier the week that we had 4 candidates in the pipeline for drivers after such a period of not being able to get any. I understand that you are quite the salesman, and you tell a good story, and it happens to be true. And so it's that sort of leadership in the public facing environment that's going to get us the people that we need, the right people at the right time. So thank you.
Well, the good thing is once these people start and it's a positive experience, word of mouth,
Right. You get some momentum.
build some momentum.
That's right. So thank you for that.
Yes. But if you look in this column here gives you the summary of everything. So again, not the number that we want for March, but again, going forward April, I think you're going to see a lot more positive numbers. And we just got to keep plugging away at it.
No other way to say it. And our last exhibit for today is the overtime trend analysis. So I think this was a slide that you wanted to see. So actually, it can give you a 4-year history right here from fiscal year 2019 to current. As you can see, typically, except for the months where we have recess, UNT, it's been hovering in the double-digit range. And that's because we're using a lot of people to run overtime to run service. And that trend is continuing right now. For the month of March, it was 18%. Expect that to be about the same in April. Obviously, it'll go down in May, but I look at this, new hires coming in. It's going to give us an opportunity to really help prepare for the summer and the next fiscal year. So we want to see that under single digits during the school year. If we do that, then we know we're creating a positive culture here.
Right, and the way that I think about this is, right now, we're saying in the organization, we've got 10 openings for drivers. The 4 that we've recruited, that brings it down to 6. So when they come online, we should start to see that overtime number come down. And then when we start to see that hit the place that we want it to be, then we'll know if we've still got vacancies advertised, then we'll know that we don't need those vacancies, or if we need to add more to the pool.
Right, we're budgeted for 62 for the operators, so we're really, that's job number 1. Once we get that settled, I think, because we have a lot of people right now who are working overtime, or sometimes road supervisors are driving. So we want to get those folks with continuous development as well. It's kind of hard to do that right now. But once we get our workforce stabilized on the operator side in particular, I think we can really focus on some of our other initiatives as well.
Have you heard from the operators that they're burned out on overtime? Because I know there's such thing as overtime fatigue. And if we continued this trend over the last couple of years, are they concerned about this?
I would say not burned out. They're just saying, when are we gonna get some help? So I guess, I think once they see the new faces and they see the consistency and how we're treating them, recognizing what they're doing, thanking them for what they do. I would say it's gonna take about a year before we really get them invigorated, because yeah, some of our operators are, again, I wouldn't say burned out, but they just say, hey, when are things really gonna change? You're the new guy, what you gonna do? So, gotta put some bodies in there. Does anybody else have any questions?
This may sound like a crazy question. What can we do to help? I mean, I have access to a city council. I'm sure everybody else here does too. What is it you need from us? I mean, right now we're hearing everything seems to be okay and so on and so forth. But we're willing to do whatever, or at least I am. I'm assuming that everybody here is about the same way. What do you need from us? What can we do to help?
Well, I think once we get our workforce stabilized, I think some positive feedback is always beneficial. Hey, thank you for the great job you're doing. We're seeing the positive numbers. From my experience, operators, mechanics, everybody loves to know how they're doing. How's the business? And again, once you get everybody asking that question, not just for the agency itself, but for their own individual performance, makes a huge difference. So the KPIs for operators are pretty straightforward, universal, but we want to create KPIs for the mechanics, for the dispatchers, for the road supervisors, for the access personnel, to get people really understanding that the only way we're going to drive excellence is you, not just as an agency, but you have to be great individually.
I guess what I'm saying is, what I'm asking is, if you could send us or me something that you would like as a message to take. I have access to everybody on the city council, and I will be happy to take it so that they know everything is going the way it is, or can we do this to make it? And I don't know whether that's okay with you or not, but these folks are, my folks, and I'm sure everybody else's folks are really pretty good folks. They don't totally understand what we are all about. And I think now I at least have some understanding of what we're about. And I'm happy to take messages to ask the questions for you or anybody else with the folks that basically have appointed me to essentially come to these meetings and so on and so forth. But I can think about it may be this or it may be that, but I want to make sure I'm right, not necessarily wrong in what it is I'm trying to do.
If I can help with that, I think it's important to recognize this board's already done a lot with regard to the reworking of the structure and the hiring of a general manager. And the message that I would hope you would have right now for the person who appointed you at DCTA, Secretary Costa, and anybody that might ask you in the city of Highland Village is NTMC is headed in the right direction because it is better aligned with the goals and objectives of DCTA as a whole, and therefore what the DCTA board is trying to accomplish. And we're seeing that in the performance by virtue of bus network performance that's up 30, ridership that's up 30% year over year, and all that sort of thing. So this board has already done a lot over the course of the last few meetings as we've all come together. And then from there, you know, that's, I think through the budget process this year that we're just going to be underway, we're going to have the opportunity to hear about what are the resources required and all that sort of stuff. And so I would just encourage you in that, encourage all of us in that we've made some really big strides in a very short amount of time.
If you can give me one diagram that somehow illustrates that, that would be very helpful. I mean,
Done.
and I don't know.
I've got it.
Okay, because I will take it and make sure that our city council understands that basically we're doing everything we can.
Okay.
And hopefully other things that I'm hoping I'm gonna be able to do will even make it better.
Thank you for that.
And now, my favorite part, staff spotlight. And the person we're going to recognize in the month of March worked every day to make sure to assist other people who are needing help, to help shuttle drivers when she was primarily a dispatcher. But she performed other functions every day to make sure that we put service on the street and at a high level. Ms. Tina Clark. Ms. Clark went above and beyond to uphold our core values, accountability, commitment, and excellence. She worked each day, including weekends, to help fill open work, shuttle relief operators when needed, and kept the leadership team informed of all operational challenges. And I mean, she's contacted me numerous times. She's a PM dispatcher primarily. Always kept me in the loop on what's going on. Shuttles other operators when they need to go out when she's not on duty officially. So I felt like that commitment to excellence separated her from many other outstanding employees as well. But Ms. Tina Clark, she's a PM dispatcher. She's our spotlight of the month.
And how do you, what do you provide the spotlight of the month? In other words, is there anything other than, I mean, is there anything that would please this spotlight of the month so it continues to be the spotlight of the month, so to speak? Or is that not part of the system, shouldn't be part of the system?
Well, how we're going to do it going forward is I've sent something out to the maintenance manager, access, ops manager, basically anybody who has direct reports. Every month, tell me who your employee of the month is based upon the KPIs that are existing, or I think KPIs that we should be looking for in those particular crafts. And then also look at who's performing exceedingly well against our core values, because that's the way you reinforce core values, is to say, hey, great demonstration of respect or integrity or excellence, commitment, safety. So that once you live it, and you reward based upon that core value, it makes it easier to get other people to join in. So the KPIs plus our core values, give me an employee every month. And we're going to individually honor those employees as well. But there's always number one. So we'll continue to have a winner, but there'll be winners within each work group as well.
And I'll ask this question and forgive me for asking it, but would it at all be helpful to you if you were having something like that for one of us or two or three of us to show up and tell them what we think of what it is they're doing and so on? So would that be a help, or is that interfering with what it is you're trying to do?
I think it would help. I think it would kind of demystify the process, because when we say we go to a board meeting, board has to do this. They've never met, I don't think they've met anybody here. So it would probably be nice to say, hey, I am that board member you hear about. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your integrity, whatever they're doing. I think it would make a difference.
Well, since I don't work and don't have a job, all you have to do is let me know, and I'm probably available to come and do that if you
Okay.
think that makes sense.
I'll take you up on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree, and I think the process to get there is the concentric circles like we talked about as we get this different pieces aligned, so can definitely do that. Thank you. You have another question?
Is she gonna get a day off?
Yeah, she in April, she's had,
Okay.
yeah. She had some days off. I didn't even realize she had done that, because I just started in March myself. And when I was talking to the ops manager, I said, well, I had these many good employees. I said, so what's the separator? And he said that. I said, are you kidding? Wow. Which, now that could burn you out. But she really is committed to service. And as I get to know her better, and I really want to, as I get to know all the employees, I'm really interested in where they want to go with their careers, their personal lives, just help them be more stable. So she's an outstanding employee. Does anybody else have any questions? Sure. Okay. But thank you so much. And again, I'm really looking forward to what we're building here. I think our safety culture right now is pretty good. As we get better, it should be outstanding. I mean, I think we could take it to a A+ level. If you look at our accidents and incidents per 100,000 riders, all staff injuries, things like that, they're pretty good. So, and as I work with Bracy, Director of Safety, and I work with the new safety manager, I think we can really achieve some outstanding results in that area. The on-time performance, I think, again, 90%. I won't say it. We're gonna do really well in that area as well, but just the opportunities to be able to recognize outstanding performance. We have a lot of really outstanding performers right now. They just probably haven't been told that, or they don't realize how they stack up when you compare what they do compared to their peers throughout the region. So really excited. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that's the end of the regular agenda. The next item listed is future agenda items and board member requests. Any comments for this part of the agenda? I would just like to maybe recap really quickly what's happening over the course of the next couple of months with our budget process and all that sort of stuff. Can you remind me, Keisha, do we have a May meeting on the calendar, or did we move the May meeting to June in anticipation that by the June board meeting here, we would be through the first cut of the budget process between this month and May? June has 2 meetings on it currently in the event that the originally scheduled meeting is needed, but we anticipate we'll only need 1. So we'll be in a bit of a recess until June, when we get together to come talk about budget. So, okay. If no other, well, the next is convene executive session. We have no executive session items for this agenda. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.